So, I didn't want kids. I didn't want to get married. I thought I was going to be career girl and that's it.
This definitely isn't the first time Ayesha Curry has publicly called out her NBA superstar husband, but this time, she's taken things to an entirely new level. According to reports circulating online, Ayesha might actually be ending things for good.
Let's unpack how it all began.
It started off as a simple podcast appearance, nothing out of the ordinary for a celebrity. Ayesha, the wife of basketball icon Stephen Curry, joined Alex Cooper on Call Her Daddy for what was supposed to be a deep, open conversation about identity, marriage, and motherhood.
But what was meant to be an honest chat quickly turned into a firestorm.
Within hours, her comments sparked massive backlash, and social media exploded with reactions.
People couldn't believe what they were hearing. So what did Ayesha say that caused such chaos?
How did someone once admired as the perfect, supportive wife suddenly become the center of controversy in her own marriage story? What happens when the life you thought you'd carefully built starts to unravel in front of the world? When the dreams you've carried since childhood suddenly crash into unexpected realities? For Ayesha Curry, this became more than just a question. It became her truth. In August 2025, Ayesha appeared on the Call Her Daddy podcast for what would turn out to be one of the most revealing interviews of her life. What she shared with Alex Cooper wasn't your typical celebrity chat. It was raw, emotional, and deeply personal. She opened up about the pressures of being a young wife, the challenges of motherhood, and the painful reality of losing herself while living in someone else's spotlight.
At first, nothing she said sounded particularly shocking.
Laughing nervously in the early moments of the episode, Ayesha joked with Alex, completely unaware that those laughs would soon echo across the internet in ways she never saw coming.
Hoping I don't get in trouble for the things that I say.
She said it with a light-hearted tone, completely unaware that within just a day, her words would set off a storm of online debates, countless memes, and endless comment battles. Only a few moments later, she made a remark that would soon be twisted and spread everywhere. A candid confession that millions would listen to, yet only a handful would truly grasp what she meant.
So, I didn't want kids. I didn't want to get married. I thought I was going to be career girl and that's it.
Those 14 words, pulled out of a much longer and deeper conversation, quickly became the internet's so-called proof that Ayesha regretted marrying Steph, that she was over him and that a divorce was right around the corner.
But that wasn't what she said at all. Not even close.
In the full interview, Ayesha was simply reflecting on how love, timing, and circumstance had completely changed the direction of her life. She explained that before meeting Steph, she had been career-focused and driven to build her own name. But after falling for him, her priorities shifted in unexpected ways. To many people who only see the Ayesha Curry of today, a mother of 4, a thriving businesswoman, and the picture-perfect NBA wife, her words may sound surprising. But in reality, what she shared is something a lot of women quietly understand. Sometimes the version of yourself you end up becoming looks nothing like the one you imagined. And that transformation isn't always smooth, glamorous, or without pain. Ayesha's story began in Markham, Ontario, Canada, where she was born and raised. From as young as 3 years old, she was already working in entertainment. While other kids spent their time on playgrounds or playing sports, little Ayesha was busy filming commercials, posing for photo shoots, and appearing on TV. As she revealed on the podcast, acting wasn't just something she did for fun. It was who she was. It shaped her identity and defined how she saw her future. But at 14, her life took an unexpected turn when her family moved from Canada to North Carolina. That's where she joined a local church youth group and met a boy everyone seemed to adore. His name? Stephen Curry. But this wasn't some instant fairytale romance. In fact,
it was one of the best days of my life. Honestly, it was so innocent and young and I wish I could relive that.
The innocence of their early romance was completely different from the complicated reality that would come years later. Back then, everything was light-hearted and simple. They spent their days exploring Hollywood like any young couple in love, walking down Hollywood Boulevard, leaving handprints at the Chinese theater, sipping chai lattes, and wandering through the Grove. Ayesha would later recall it as a time of pure, genuine young love, carefree, sweet, and full of promise. Neither of them had any clue what was waiting ahead. They couldn't have possibly imagined the level of fame and success that Stephen would one day reach, or how that spotlight would completely change both of their lives. And it's important to remember something about those early days. Ayesha had no idea Stephen was destined to become a basketball icon. She wasn't with him for his potential career or chasing the image of an NBA star. In fact,
I didn't know that he was going to end up playing basketball. He said he wanted to be a high school basketball coach.
this small but crucial detail often gets overlooked in all the public chatter. Ayesha didn't fall for Stephen the basketball prodigy. She fell in love with Stephen the person. Coming from a family that valued the arts far more than athletics, she once admitted that sports were never really a topic in her home, aside from the occasional mention of Doug Flutie from the Buffalo Bills. In her mind, she was going to be the one with the big, shining career, while Stephen would probably end up coaching high school basketball somewhere quiet. But, as life so often does, it took them in a completely different direction. After spending some time in a long-distance relationship while Stephen finished college, things between them began to move quickly. They got engaged in July 2010 and tied the knot just a year later, on July 30th, 2011, when Ayesha was only 22 years old. And this is where their story starts to take a fascinating turn. Most people who marry that young are usually the ones who've spent years dreaming about weddings, rings, and family life.
but Ayesha wasn't one of them.
She never fantasized about marriage or a white dress. She always imagined herself as an ambitious actress chasing her Hollywood dreams.
So, what made her change her mind?
I didn't. I just knew that I loved him, and I'd never experienced anything else. I'd never felt any differently than this is who I want to spend the rest of my life with.
It's a touching realization that shows how life often reveals what our hearts truly desire, even when it's completely different from what we once imagined for ourselves. But alongside that beautiful truth, Ayesha also openly acknowledges something else just as important.
And I say this all the time to our family. I'm like, you guys, 22. I'm like, you guys. I'm not a single parent. Nobody was like, hey guys, are you sure?
Everyone in their circle was cheering them on, offering support and telling them to go for it. And so they did. At just 22, with only a few years of adult life behind her, Ayesha married the man she adored, ready to start what she believed would be a joyful new adventure together. But what she didn't realize, what she couldn't have possibly seen coming, was how fast everything around her was about to shift.
Life was about to throw her into a whirlwind she hadn't planned for.
Because just 3 months after walking down the aisle, Ayesha discovered something that would change everything. She was pregnant.
How are you confused? Because my OB said expected to take up to a year. And so I'm like, in my head, I heard at least a year. I was thinking we were going to be bar hopping. It's nope, you're pregnant and you're going to be very, very.
Just think about that for a second. Ayesha was only 22, newly married, and still that same young woman who, just a few months earlier, had been hustling through 3 different jobs in Los Angeles chasing her dream of becoming an actress.
She'd never planned on marriage or motherhood.
In fact, she always saw herself as an independent, career-driven woman. And now, barely 3 months after saying I do, she was dealing with an unexpected pregnancy and brutal morning sickness. As Ayesha would later put it, that was definitely not on my bingo card. This is the moment her story began to shift from a personal journey to something far more universal, a reality that so many young women can relate to. Suddenly, she was living a life she had never envisioned, trying to reconcile the person she once thought she'd become with the woman she was turning into.
What happens to your sense of identity when all your plans fall apart? When the career you dreamed of feels out of reach?
When independence gives way to partnership and dependence in ways you never anticipated? These questions began to linger in Ayesha's mind, questions that would follow her through the early years of her marriage. And as Stephen's basketball career skyrocketed into global fame, those doubts only grew heavier. The struggle to figure out who she really was became harder to ignore. After giving birth to their daughter Riley in 2012, Ayesha found herself standing in the same place that countless mothers have before, torn between her role as a mom and her sense of self. She loved her child deeply, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was losing parts of herself along the way.
The change didn't happen overnight.
For that first year, life was consumed by feedings, sleepless nights, and the chaos of caring for a newborn. Everything revolved around this tiny baby who needed her every second.
But soon, something inside her began to shift.
After my daughter turned 1, I remember there being a shift and being like, I have goals for myself. Like, this doesn't feel right. I love being a mom, but I love doing other things too. And I need to get my shit together and figure out what that looks like for myself now.
The moment on set was clearly meant to be a joke. Ayesha was laughing, the hosts were laughing, it was just light-hearted entertainment. But when that old clip resurfaced online years later, it sparked a wave of backlash. Many people accused her of disrespecting her marriage and making fun of fidelity. Social media was flooded with criticism, with comments like, "Marriage vows aren't something to laugh about." The situation got so out of hand that Stephen even stepped in to show his support, leaving a playful comment on her Instagram that read, "My woman and my rooster." Not long after, more rumors started spreading, this time about the Currys supposedly being in an open marriage. In January 2022, an anonymous tip posted on the gossip page Duxmoy hinted that a famous NBA couple wasn't as faithful as they seemed. The Currys weren't named directly, but people online immediately jumped to conclusions. Ayesha quickly shut the gossip down, responding firmly on Instagram, "Don't believe everything you read. Do you know how ridiculous that sounds?
Please don't disrespect my marriage like that."
All of this constant scrutiny raises an important question. Why are women, especially those married to powerful men, judged so harshly in the public eye? What people often forget in all the noise is that Ayesha and Stephen actually have one of the strongest, most enduring marriages in professional sports. In September 2021, they renew their vows to celebrate their 10th anniversary, with their daughter Riley officiating the intimate ceremony in their backyard. Then, in May 2024, they welcomed their fourth child, Kais Chai. Through it all, they've built thriving individual careers while raising a close, loving family. They've faced fame, pressure, and endless public judgment, yet their bond hasn't broken.
And maybe that's the real message in Ayesha's story. Life almost never goes exactly how you plan it.
The career you dreamed of might not unfold. The relationship you never expected could become your greatest blessing, and the independence you once guarded might evolve into shared strength. What truly matters is how you adapt, how you grow, and how you stay grounded in who you are, no matter how much life changes.